More big drops for big keys. Is it time to hold or sell?
More debate about the best year for comics ever.
And plenty of Jack Kirby content here on a new episode of Bronze and Modern Gods. Hello there. Hi, Richard. How are you?
Good, John. How are you? I see you got your Kirby shirt on. That's awesome.
You know, it's a Kirby day. It's not his birthday or anything. I was going through the show and making my notes, and I realized I'm very Kirby heavy today. So I thought I'd celebrate. And I see a little Kara action on your shirt there.
Yes, you got me this shirt. This is a beautiful Adam Hughes Supergirl shirt, and I love it.
Just sitting on an asteroid.
Yep.
Well, we've got underrated books of the week. We've got 25-year-old going back to 1999 with a classic Wildstorm series. Viewer mail. But first, Richard, it is our hot book of the week. Speaking of the king, take it away.
Hot book this week is The New Gods, #1 from DC Comics back in 1971. First issue and appearance of a bunch of characters, including Orion, Light Ray, Metron, and Calabac. It's seeing an increase in sales this week thanks to DC announcing the New Gods, a new Gods series.
It's tough. A new Gods series. Isn't it kind of refreshing, like old school, when a new series would come out and the back issues of the old series would go up?
That's
kind of what this is doing. It's not because they announced a James Gunn movie or something stupid like that. So that's cool. I just think New Gods #1 has been so crazy undervalued for so long.
Have they announced who the artist and writer is going to be on the new series?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know it's coming. It's a new book. You want me to know about new books?
Oh, that's true. What am I talking about? The 90-day average for this as a 9.8 from CGC is about $1,830, way down from the 2022 highs when it was almost $3,000.
I have a 9.6 that I bought. Wait for it. 2022.
Oh, painful.
Yeah. Mid-grade raws on eBay, meanwhile, are selling for about $45 to $75. A tough book in super high grade. It's also very deceptive, this book, because if you look at it, Richard, what does this cover have that you love pointing out?
What does it have that I love pointing out?
A patina.
Yes, that spackled background that'll hide spine ticks.
Well,
yeah.
Also, that Starfield is not pure white. It's actually kind of yellow and tan. So it's very, like I say, it's a deceptive book because you look at it and you think it's tanning or it's browning. It's not. That's the way it was made. But all that black, it is tough. It does catch a lot of stuff. While it is a Starfield, it does catch a lot of things that you hoped it wouldn't catch in terms of flaws. And so it took me forever to find a 9.6.
And it's got a rare corner box for DC, and most corner boxes are Marvel. So
cool they did that on the Kirby books and a few others. I'm not sure how many months DC did it, but they tried to do a little Marvel-esque branding there. It didn't last too long though. Any interest in this book ever?
Me? I was never a reader of New Gods. Sorry to say.
It's a challenging book, I'll say that. And as the biggest Kirby fan, you guys, you know, look at me, I'm wearing your shirt. It's challenging. You kind of have to really read it. It's probably one of the most literary books there were. He writes it in this almost iambic pentameter that they talk like gods. They don't talk like humans. There's weird emphasis on words that shouldn't be emphasized, in the bold. But once you get it, you'll love it. Kind of like Loving Rockets.
Okay, so it's a book you have to invest in to be able to get the best out of it.
The Kirby stuff, those initial 11 issues for sure. Let's switch gears. We've been talking about it for the last month and a half or so, about prices falling and when is it time to sell, and is there a silver tsunami happening of people getting out of the hobby, or just dumping their stuff. And boy, last week's Heritage auction, man, what'd you think?
It was brutal for prices. I mean, we saw some real treasures show up. Blue chip books that it traditionally have really held their value, and they just did not perform well at this auction.
What does this mean? 4 random examples we picked out of thin air. What is it you always say, Richard? 4 examples does not a trend make.
Right. This is not a statistically significant sample.
Say it again.
So, but I refuse. But it is, these are kind of there are indicators. These are true values of these books, and we have historical sales values for all of these books. So we can track their increase and decrease over time. This is definitely a dip, and I don't know. I don't have a good feel for have we hit the nadir of this? Have we hit the bottom? Or are we going to continue to see prices drop until people feel they've reached the parity that they need to for these books?
Tangent. CGC layoffs. Blackstone trying to reduce cost in order to sell.
Oh, that's an interesting. It would be interesting in that they invested $500 million, 2 years ago now?
Well, I don't know. Did they invest 500 million, or was it valued at 500 million?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think know
it's valued at 500 million.
Okay.
But obviously it's a significant multi-million-dollar investment. And I think it's one of those things like okay, we're going to go back to the music industry, you guys. We always had these people come in that did not understand the music industry and invest and try to take over. They'd bring their people in, and their people would be like, okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to revamp all the web stores. We're going to sell Led Zeppelin t-shirts. No, you're not. Well, what do you mean? We don't own the name Led Zeppelin. We don't own the album cover rights because we don't have the paperwork from when it was commissioned back in the day. We don't own stuff. We own the master. Well, then we're going to put it in music of movies. No, you're not. We don't own the publishing. The songwriters own the publishing, and they took it to a different company. So we actually have to pay the publishing when we put some, and they don't understand all the nuances and intricacies. I get the feeling Blackstone, same thing here. We're going to do this comic book thing, and it's going to be printing money. No, you're not, because it's human beings grading these books for now. I just don't think the parallels just strike me.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I think they came in guns blazing, seeing a potential, dominating, company in the particular industry, not realizing that industry is very volatile. So
yeah, and everybody had their stimmy money, and they were submitting books left and right. I'm going to submit my Destroyer Duck number 6. Evan submitting books that were 5070s just because they were his childhood books.
Right. And remember how the remember the wait times for submissions back in the day? I mean, you were,
if you miss those days, they're back.
Are they really? Or magazines are over a year to get your book back.
Yeah. Vintage, I think, is like 114 days right now.
Is it really?
Vintage. Oh, wow. They had that sale. Remember that bundle sale in the middle of con season? What were they thinking? It's total. I think it's fattening up the goose. It's all speculation. We don't know crap, but I'm going to plant my flag here and say they're getting ready to sell this thing.
Oh boy.
If you knew you're going to be competing with the number 1 grading company for cards next year, would you dig your heels in and invest more into this company to try to compete, or would you dump it before you have to worry about it?
Yeah. That's so interesting. We'll see. John is not planning any kind of stage takeover. So there's no inside information here.
I'm not sending any books into anybody right now. Right now I'm raw dogging it, people. Yeah. All right, let's get back to what we truly love, and that is the books themselves. Look, Richard, my finger. Look, come on, you can do it. Everybody is proud of Richard.
Oh,
Richard, what's
thank you.
that? It's all
Thank
Kirby all the time. That's my theme. We're
you.
going to start with Captain Victory and his Galactic Rangers, issue 1.
Okay.
Now that's a gun.
That is a gun. That is a manly gun. As a matter of fact, where is the arm?
There's arms. I hear kids like, I like Liefeld because he draws those big guns, and okay, just remember the source. No pun intended. You New Gods fans. Jack coming back after leaving Marvel in 1979. This is 1981. Creator owned. Very Star Wars influenced. He was actually working on this when Star Wars was in the theater still. It is new, exciting, and original. It's Kirby. You can't say it's not anything but original. The guy's concepts were, when you see the lightning lady, you'll know what I mean. Richard, ever read this?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Any interest in well, you like Dave Stevens, so you've had Pacific Comics before, Alien and things like that.
Mhm.
It was the first Pacific Comics. Look at that logo. It was like they were just, I don't know what they were doing. You can't even read what that says. What does that say? Oh, it says collector's edition. That's what it says.
Oh, okay.
$1. I remember when this came out. First of all, I couldn't find it anywhere because we didn't have a direct sales comic shop in Illyria. The Illyria Bazaar, who used to sell used books, somehow he got a stack of them. He must have had a trade in from someone, and I got it there. I had to trade so many comic books to get that. It was $1, man. That was when comics were still, 40 cents, I think, in 1981.
Yeah, I think around there.
Significant investment there. We'll talk more about that book a little later. Teaser. What do you have?
In honor of in the Heritage Auction, they're also selling original art, and a J. Scott Campbell piece sold. It was the cover for Amazing Spider-Man. I cannot remember. It's the one with Mary Jane sitting on the cover, holding the coffee cup, waiting for Peter to come back.
The one that everybody wanted to redraw and correct the anatomy.
Yes, exactly. Sold for 114,000, which
really,
yeah, which I thought was that's a good price. I think for a cover, a cover that is that influential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so I picked some J. Scott Campbell covers. Here I've got X-Men #1. This is a store exclusive. You see the little exclusive logo there in the corner. And you've got Rogue and you've got Gambit here on and it's a very dynamic cover. It's one of the rare times he actually draws a male, but of course, the female's in the foreground. But it's just, as usual with his covers, I love the colors. It's a lot of greens, a lot of purple, pinks, and they work really well together. And I could see him signing this in either green or pink. This one is not signed, but yeah.
Don't hate me, but which X-Men #1 is that?
It's yeah, I know, from 2018.
Okay.
Yeah,
it sucks we have to ask that question.
Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah, well, cool cover though.
Yeah.
More Kirby right here all the time on WJK, Jack Kirby Radio. Thank you. Machine Man #2. The first issue of Machine Man I ever owned. I couldn't find #1 anywhere, but #2, I have memories of buying this off the newsstand. I don't know. As a kid, I was just strangely fascinated by Jack Kirby. I didn't think he was a very good artist. I thought he was not realistic at all. I thought he drew square knees and blocky arms and square fingers.
He did.
Mm-hmm. And those stupid squiggly lines. But I couldn't look away. I could not look away. And I bought everything he did. Cap, Black Panther, Eternals, Machine Man. So, it just must have had a visceral effect on a kid. And what a cool cover. He turns himself into a little 3-wheeler.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it 3 or 4 wheels? I see 3.
It's a 3-wheeler. You don't want to know where their third wheel's.
That's kind of where I was gonna go. That's
Doesn't look that bad in the book, but you look right here. It looks like he's sitting on something to make that third wheel come out. But it's Machine Man, the living robot, formerly Mr. Machine, and then they had to change the name because of the toy Mr. Machine. Good choice. Machine Man's a much better name. What's your next book?
Next book is another J. Scott Campbell book. This is Gwen Stacy #1. This is the Virgin variant. Notice no trade dress on it. I think this is the 1 in 50. I'm sure chat will correct me. It's either 1 in 50 or 1 in 25 ratio variant. And at one point, this was a hot book back in the craze for Gwen Stacy and Spider Gwen and all that. Nowadays, it's cooled off a lot. It's not worth as much as it used to, but it's still a cool cover.
You like the Green Goblin butterflies?
Not particularly.
You like the fact that she looks like she just slugged down a fifth of vodka?
Oh, that's his style. Everybody in his are self-medicated.
Hold that close. The face. Look at the nose. What's okay? It doesn't look that bad when it's up close, but go back far. It looks like she's a frigging clown. She's wearing like a little clown nose.
That's his way he draws noses. It's every artist has a signature, and I think the pixie-like nose that he draws on all of his characters is his primary signature. You can recognize J. Scott Campbell face. If you look at here's
yeah. All right, Gwen and Rogue. We'll see you on Botched. Get that deviated septum fixed. Jack. It is first issue special #1 featuring Atlas. Stacks of this book are out there. I don't know if DC just printed so many of them. Or yeah. You've never seen this book? I was gonna say, how often have you seen this book? Never, John. You're making stuff up. This book was a tryout book, okay? Like Marvel Premiere or Marvel Spotlight. And Carmine Infantino, who was then publisher of DC Comics, had the brilliant idea. #1 issues sell. So we're going to create a book called First Issue Special. So every issue will be #1.
Okay.
They were sequentially numbered. So there is First Issue Special #2, First Issue Special #3, etc. The most famous thing to come out of First Issue Special was, I believe, First Issue Special #8, which was the introduction of the Warlord.
Okay.
Who got his own book and ran
forever
the 80s. Exactly. No one else from First Issue Special graduated to their own title. Well, I take that back. Return of the New Gods was the last issue of First Issue Special, and that was a prelude to the title being revived. Well, what is your last book?
Last book is last time I showed a Judge Dredd book. There's another one. This is Judge Dredd #2. This is the Eagle Comics, which is an English comic publisher. But I love this because you got Judge Dredd there on one side, and then you've got a judge from the Soviet bloc on the other side, who is the equivalent of Judge Dredd in the Soviet version of Mega City 1. And they have a competition, and you can guess who wins. But no, I just love the artwork. I love the this great counterpoint between the two characters. There's an umpire here who's officiating. Great artwork. I love this art. It's so tied in my mind to the characters that that lantern jaw that they all have, and it's great cover.
I was going to point out the umpire. You can tell a Brit drew this cover because it's a baseball reference, but he's wearing a football helmet. Yeah. It's almost like these are the two American sports. We're just going to mash them up with a referee and an umpire. Yeah.
Well, then, we call football soccer, so we're crazy too.
Canadian football, anyone?
Oh,
Australian rules football, anyone? Hey, if you enjoy meaningless banter like this, you might want to consider becoming a member. $2.99 a month gets you these perks. Wednesday, members only episodes with more show and tell, live streams on Thursdays with Richard and I in the live chat, and a guest member every week doing their thing. Plus, shout outs, more new names this week, plenty of new members last week. Thank you guys so much. You're helping us pay for software. You're helping us pay for shows. You're helping us pay to bring you more content. Just hit that join button next to subscribe below or in the link in the podcast description. Let's move on to your favorite segment and Mars, viewer mail.
You've got mail.
Mars, Richard, your viewer mail come from Mark.
Me Wild 1032. I'm talking about Space Ghost. I featured as my underrated book last week, Space Ghost #1, the new Dynamite book came out this year, and seems to be a lot of interest in Space Ghost. This one is about the horrible TV show called Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Richard's views do not reflect those of Bronze and Modern Gods or its co-host.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast was amazing. Look forward to it every week, especially the first few seasons. All hail Brack. No, I just couldn't get into it. I got into C-Lab. C-Lab I enjoyed. I thought that was funny. Space Ghost, I don't know. I don't know if it was the interview format. It just did not tickle my funny bone like C-Lab did. And it went over my head, to be honest with you. Now, the original Space Ghost show, I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. That's my jam. Loved every episode of Space Ghost growing up because it meant I was watching cartoons. Cartoons in the heart of the cartoons. And that was a good place for 8-10-year-old me to be. But Space Ghost, if you like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and it seems to be, I may be in the minority, good on you. I'm wondering if that is available on any of the streaming services now. Maybe I'll give it another try.
I think it might be on Max. Not a fan of anti-comedy, are you?
I guess not. But like I said, I enjoyed C-Lab, which is it's C-Lab. Can't remember. Is it 2020?
Right. Listeners, here's the litmus test. Ready, Richard, and for you members. Andy Kaufman.
He was a troubled genius.
Funny.
In his,
all right, there we go. We know.
Yeah, he didn't make me laugh, but I did chuckle at some of his antics. The thing where he has the record player and he's playing the Underdogs theme. That
Minnie Mouse,
right?
Mighty Mouse,
right? And that was inspiring. I wouldn't call it funny, but I would call it comedy, if that makes any sense.
I tell you, people, this is the litmus test. You give people the litmus test. Tim and Eric.
Andy Kaufman, it's when he started to wrestle, completely lost me. That was
fantastic. When Jerry Lawler, that whole Tim and Eric.
I don't think I know who Tim and Eric is.
Never watched Tim and Eric. All right, we'll move back to comics. By the way, we're talking about the original art auction. I can't believe you talked about that Heritage original art auction and you did not mention the splash page from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #7 selling for $22,000.
I did not see that, to be honest with you.
I thought of you when I saw that because I was watching it live and I was thinking, wow, some of this stuff is going for really, really cheap. I mean, there was a 3-panel Superman comic strip, original art from Jose Delbo, $250.
Wow.
I would have bought that for $250 if I, the buyer's premium, it's $7,000.
That's the problem.
But then I saw that Turtles page and I was like, oh, this is gonna sail. And sure enough, first it was like $6,000 and going once, going twice, and just kept building and building and building.
I don't have $22,000 to spend, but if I did have that kind of liquid cash that is laying around, I think it was a good price for Turtle original art from issue number 7. I mean, this is Mirage days, the original works, and to own anything from that time period, I think it would be incredible. Um, so at $6,000, I would have found the money.
Yeah,
I would have done it.
definitely buy low, sell high. My first piece of viewer mail comes to us from GA Prime. I'm currently working through a 6,000 plus book collection that started with my dad. A lot of 60s and 70s and a ton of 80s and 90s books that I grew up with collecting and reading. I'm slabbing and keeping things that are important to me. Certain character keys, Spider-Man, X-Men, Wolverine, Gambit. Memorable storylines, fatal attractions. GA Prime, fatal attractions, stop it. Covers that make me happy, X-Men 24, etc. I'm pulling big keys as I find them and setting them aside for future slabbing once the market figures out what it's doing. CGC, PSA, CBCS, whichever ends up being the top dog going forward. And the rest is just going on eBay in lots and full runs. I've slabbed about 60 books so far, kept about 25 of those, and I'm basically floating it even money-wise. And I think that trend will continue. I'll sell enough to slab the stuff that's worth getting slabbed. And if there is a market condition that makes slab books profitable, they're going up for sale. My kids are enjoying helping, but I don't want them to have to deal with it when I'm gone. First of all, GA Pryde, good for you. Sounds like you're doing the right things. Sounds like you're doing it the right way. I kid you about fatal attractions. Every story is someone's favorite. I don't know what else to say except for keep it up. Sounds like you've got it locked in, and thanks for sharing your experience with everyone else.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you're organized and you've got a plan, and you're moving forward with the collection you started with your father, and you're keeping an eye out for your children because at some point it's going to become their responsibility either to continue along with the collection or liquidate it. And it sounds like you're slimming down that 6,000 count to something that's more manageable for them. So good for you. I wish I was as organized as that.
I've been putting stuff on eBay all week. Like I told you, Richard, like I told everybody else, Richard, 2 or 3 books a day. Not even that. 1 book a day. Just do a book a day. It'll add up.
Yep.
Make some good coin, I'm taking it and I'm buying Vivi. Okay. Joke. That's a joke. Bad joke. What is your next piece of viewer mail?
My next piece is from Paul S 1116, and we're talking about 1986 as being the sweet spot for comics. I've found some other notable 86 gems you guys may not have covered to make it sound even sweeter.
Ooh.
Thundercats from Star, Matt Wagner's Grendel ongoing, the awesome beginning of X Factor, okay, Elektra Assassin, Daredevil Born Again, the Punisher First Solo, which I believe you guys have covered, Captain America Annual number 8
with Wolverine, Mike Zeck cover.
Solson Christmas Special Samurai Santa number 1. If you know what it is, you'll appreciate it even more. I do not recognize that title.
First Jim Lee art in comics.
Oh, awesome. And one final smash, Megaton 3, first full Savage Dragon. That's one for you, John.
I'm clapping.
I think, in 1986 hits home runs all day. I think we covered a couple of these here as well over the years. But now that's a wonderful list, and it does definitely highlight how wonderful the talent was in 1986. The combination of the talent, publishers were being willing to take risks, and some really, really interesting stories. So great. Thank you so much for the list. It definitely helps strengthen the strength says 1986 as being the banner year.
One for you, Richard. 86 Cerebus on the Moon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
very good.
Peak Cerebus in 86.
when Dave Sim was on the top of his game. Yeah.
Before it was all. All right. My next piece of viewer mail is from Broke Cuz of Comics. Susie Orman and me is looking at you, Broke Cuz of Comics. Hey, fellas. I am one of those niche collectors who lately has changed my focus from superheroes to the greatest time in my life, Saturday morning cartoons, and some of the first appearances in comics of those characters. The Great Grape Ape, Dick Dastardly, and Muttley Grape Ape. Squidly Diddly, Wally Gator, so forth and so on. Broke Cuz of Comics, are you trying to kiss up to me? What's going on?
Did Hanna-Barbera owned our childhood? Do you know that?
Nothing makes me feel in a good mood or better than seeing a character in the middle of a TV screen with their legs running and a static background being repeated behind them verbatim over and over and over again. There's that coffee table. There's that coffee table. There's that coffee table. I don't know. I love it. And Broke Cuz of Comics, you're preaching to the choir. You know, I gave up on most superheroes long ago, and I've been buying my Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera and Peanuts stuff. I don't know. It makes me feel warm.
And you have a lot of competition for that stuff too. It's not like you can find it easy. You're still hunting for some of that stuff.
I mean, I joke with Richard and Forrest and Evan all the time, our friends. I can find you guys a Hulk 181 in 5 seconds, anywhere, anytime, any day. You go find me first appearance of Roadrunner in an 8.4 or 8.5 or higher. I just made up a new grading scale. 8.4.
Yeah, or go out and find, Scooby-Doo in a grade higher than 8.
Jeez. Yeah. Don't remind me. I only have a 4.0. What is your next piece of viewer mail?
My next piece is from Belle Izzard. I saw that video that still our friend David, still 35 cents, posted with backwards book. Someone at CGC had a huge brain fart. In other words, shocker. Absolutely ridiculous, completely unacceptable quality control. Or what quality control? And he's talking about the book. And David had published a video about a book that had been slabbed backwards. So you had the back of the book showing with the label. I don't know how that got past QC. There really is no excuse, because the back of the book did not look like a cover at all. There's also I saw on I briefly got on Instagram this week, which is a rarity for me anymore, because social media and I don't agree with each other. And someone published a book as a 9.8, and I forget the actual book now, but the entire cover and front and back cover were wrinkled. I mean, not just wrinkled; it looked like water damage.
Wow.
It had, it was warped and misshapen, and it had a 9.8 on it. So in other words, when it got graded, it didn't have, hopefully, that condition. So yeah, some things are really, really slipping through QC for CGC. I don't know. Even when they were, in the grips of the comic boom, and you had huge volumes of books because everybody was submitting, I don't remember these kinds of errors occurring, during, even that peak time.
That's a good point, because I think the most annoying things that happened to me were swapped labels. They put this label should have been on this book in my submission, and it's on the other one. That was like the worst that it got. I think the absolute worst, which really wasn't QC, it was during the grading process, is my Cap 117 First Falcon, where they popped the staple. I'll never forget CGC. All right, enough slapping around CGC. Jason Ladwig writes in about my opinion, talking about Kitty, Pryde, and Wolverine, the miniseries. John, don't you dare besmirch the memory of Kitty Wolverine. It was one of the first comics I picked up after discovering Wolverine. As a 10-year-old in 1984, it had 80s colors, ninjas, and Wolvie. Richard, thanks for dredging up my memory for this series. Now I have to go find the box it's in and check it out again. I don't know, Jason. You really don't have to.
It's one of those books that's, it's not gonna Brendan Eisner, but it's
No,
just got it's got nostalgic appeal.
it's not going to win my new awards that I call the Hex for hack work. Jason, like I said earlier, every series is someone's favorite. So I get it. I mean, I don't understand Sonic the Hedgehog, but the issues sell for $25 a pop usually for mid-grade. So everything, you don't have to justify. You're not justifying. You're telling me to go sit on it, as Potsy would say. So, by the way, there's a reference that will be completely meaningless in another generation, right?
Completely. Yeah, that's the 23 skidoo of our generation.
23 skidoo. More like 25-year rule.
Woohoo!
Oh, organic segue.
Bravo.
Thank you. Let me adjust here as I talk to you all about one of my favorite books ever. Sort of. I'll explain. Planetary, specifically Planetary #1 from DC and Wildstorm, 1999. Written by Warren Ellis, illustrated by John Cassidy when he could still draw. Sorry. This series follows the archaeologists of the impossible, a team that explores hidden mysteries and anomalies in a world infused with secret histories and pulp fiction inspired elements during its 27-issue run. Richard, do you ever read Planetary?
No, I did not.
You would love this. There's an omnibus, there's a digital collection. You should read Planetary, especially now, because you don't have to wait the interminable wait between issues that we had to wait when it was coming out. It's famous for its homage to various genres of pop culture. Like they do, like one issue would be about a Doc Savage kind of like person, and the next issue would be about like a Fantastic Four type of group. It's kind of like the Watchmen on steroids when it comes to deconstructing and celebrating comic book tropes. CGC 9.8 graded copies typically sell for around $150. This was a hot series at one point. It has obviously cooled down in the intervening decades. Raws on eBay are pretty affordable. You can even grab the full run of 27 issues for $150, a recent sale. Definitely for fans of meta comics and genre homages, but it came out whenever they felt like it. The first 9 issues were monthly, bi-monthly. I remember between issue 26 and 27, there was literally, I think, a 6-year wait.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think issue 26 came out in 2003 and issue 27 came out in 2009.
Wow.
There were times when there were 6-7 months between issues. You'll get it when we're done with it, was basically the attitude, which was a smart thing to do. And I say that because now it is a complete work by the creators that started it. Didn't have to have fill-ins, didn't have to have, we got to meet this print run deadline, so let's get Don Heck and Al Milgrom to do an issue. No, it is a complete work. You were out at this point. You missed Wildstorm entirely, didn't you?
I did. Didn't read this at all, but I hear you about fillers. Whenever I think of fillers, I think there was a issue of The Punisher where he was walking to the park and he noticed this woman was hitting the brake lights to SOS and saves a woman and all. And it is this whole issue about wasting time, basically.
Yep.
He was going to the park because that's where his family was killed, and all this stuff happened. You don't have that kind of delaying of telling the story when the creators get the opportunity to release it on their own schedule. So that's a good point.
Yeah, you'll see things like they'll collect runs and there'll be like this random fill-in in the middle of the run. Like, what? No. You missed The Authority too, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Richard, you have some reading to do, mister. Let's move on to our underrated books of the week. Take it.
Yeah, my underrated book this week is a book called Batman, The Weed of Crime. DC 99. There's no issue number with this. This is a promotional comic sponsored by Claritin, the drug company. Writer is Christopher Priest. Pencils are Joe Stanton, And this book is about 20 pager, and it espouses the benefits of using Claritin in the content, not necessarily the story. uh the expression "the weed of crime" comes from a quote from The Shadow: "The weed of crime bears bitter fruit."
Mhm.
um so it has some comic comic pull. The thing with this book is, this is a giveaway, and there are people out there who collect giveaways. That's their thing. They're completionists that have to have every single Batman title. This is one of those. This is a hard book to come by, uh, especially in the higher grades. It's just a ghost. I came across this book because I was looking for hard to find books, and I saw there are two copies. There's a graded copy, a 9.6 on eBay right now. It is the only graded book on CGC census. Just that
Wow.
one single 9.6. There are a couple raws. The raws go from $30 to $50, basically. Um, so it's just not out there. It's just not out there. If you come across this book in any dollar bin, $5 bin, pick it up, because wow, there is an audience for this book. The eBay There is an eBay sale in September for this book for $45. So there are
Wow.
people who know about it. Uh, I see the real value in this book being its rarity, and the fact that people want to complete their set or collect these kinds of giveaways. So keep an eye out for this book.
Two things about this. I wonder if our good friend Sandy, who has been on the show before — it's been a while, Sandy, you need to come back on — who worked for DC for years, it was his job to find these licensing partners to do stuff like this. He did one book with KFC that was like Green Arrow meets Colonel Sanders. It's hilarious. Um, and this sounds like it was one of his things. I wonder if that was when he was doing in that department, because he was DC forever in different departments. Second of all, written by Christopher Priest, you say.
Yes.
Oh, are
Yes.
you foreshadowing a potential for future guest on the show? My underrated book this week. Richard gave it away. We had to edit it out when I was showing it during show and tell. It is Captain Victory and his Galactic Rangers. I was showing it. Richard's like, "Isn't that your underrated book too?" I'm like, "Richard, you're spoiling the
I'm sorry.
reveal."
Get the dramatic. Yeah, that's
Why is this underrated? Well, I'll give you reasons. Created by the legend Jack King Kirby, it's one of his final major works, showcased his signature cosmic storytelling, introduced this hero. But it was published in 1981 by a company called Pacific Comics, and it marked a turning point in the comic book industry, as it was one of the first creator-owned series. Now, you had the First Kingdom by Jack Katz and some other stuff, but this was like a big deal. I mean, Jack Kirby now owned his property. It inspired greater autonomy for comic creators during the 80s. The series itself, it's Jack, it's sci-fi concepts, but it's also very prescient. Jack Kirby, he is. Captain Victory really couldn't die because he would transfer his consciousness into clone bodies. He went through several of them in the first 3 issues.
oh,
Yeah, kind of. It's interesting, but also, what stakes are there? The guy can't die. I mean, there's a line like, "You're going to run out of clones eventually," but it's very vague. Um, it it was a rise of creator-owned comics. This started that big trend in the 80s, and it paved the way absolutely for Image Comics in later years. And it's kind of affordable based on how groundbreaking it was. You can get it for about $6 to $8 and find very fine condition. Higher grade issues are slightly higher. So despite its historical importance, it's relatively affordable and it's accessible if you want to get one. They are really out there, very heavily speculated in the 80s, but high grade copies have been popping around in dollar bins and for decades, because for the longest time, this book was not desirable. It's going to be 50 years pretty soon. So if you haven't gotten one and you're a Kirby fan, I would get one.
Yeah. What's the paper quality on that? Is it, typical indie low grade or?
First issue looks just like a Marvel or DC comic. You got newsprint, you got 4-color printing. It's basic.
Mhm.
As they go on, they up the paper stock, they up the coloring quality. Steve Oliff takes over, doing separations, and it starts to improve. But this first issue is like, okay, we want to play it safe. We want to look just like a Marvel or DC comic. Don't go nuts. And again, it was kind of seismic back in the day that, whoa, there's going to be a new comic company. And they got Jack Kirby to do it, and you could only buy it in comic book stores. So get your Captain Victories if you haven't already. People, come on, what are you waiting for? And if you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, what are you waiting for? What you waiting for? Hit like, hit subscribe, do all those nice things, and we will see members on Wednesday and everybody else on Monday.
Yep. Everybody, stay safe.
Gobble, gobble.